Behaviorist theory is one of the earliest and most influential theories in psycholinguistics. It emerged in the early 20th century and focuses on the relationship between language and behavior. According to this theory, language acquisition is a process of learning where individuals learn a language through imitation, reinforcement, and conditioning. For example, a parent rewards a child for completing their homework as a means of reinforcing this behavior. The principal exponents of the behaviorist theory are John B. Watson and Frederick Skinner. Ignane's theory is a perspective in psycholinguistics that posits that humans are born with an innate capacity of language acquisition. According to this theory, language acquisition is not solely dependent on environmental factors, but is also determined by factors that are genetically inherited. The key figure of the innatist theory is Noam Chomsky, who proposed the language acquisition device, or LAT, in the 1950s. Chomsky believed that the language acquisition device is a cognitive mechanism that is hardwired into the brain and allows for the language acquisition. He also thinks that is a set of rules that are universal for all languages, and that's why children are able to learn any language that they are exposed to. Another key aspect of the Ignatius theory is the critical period. The critical period is a specific period of time in the earliest childhood during which language acquisition should take place for normal development to occur. However, the Ignatius theory has been also criticized for oversimplifying the complex nature of the language acquisition.
The cognitive theory in the context of psycholinguistics. It is focused on the role of mental process and cognitive function in understanding language acquisition, comprehension, and production. Here we have four important points. The first, language processing, that basically is understanding how language is processed in the human mind. Basically, is focused on cognitive process and understand language production. Next, we have the perception and recognition, but basically recognition and comprehension the spoken or written language. Recognize the word, sentences, or phrases. Next, we have the working memory, where we have the all linguistic information in your mind. I- We manipulate this information during the comprehension and production process. And finally, we have the language production, where we all the information that we have in our mind, we create sentences and we express our thoughts and ideas.
Let's continue with the theories that contribute to psycholinguistics. In this case, we have the social interactional theory. So let's see what we have. What is the social interactional theory? Well, this is a prominent perspective in psycholinguistics that emphasizes the role of social interaction in language development. This theory's main idea is that language acquisition is fundamentally shaped by social interactions and the communicative context in which the person uses and learns the language. Let's go with the other part. What is the main figure of this theory? It is Lev Vygotsky, a Russian psychologist whose work laid the foundation of this theory, and his ideas established the key concepts of this theory. The first of them we have is the CPD, or zone of proximal development. Well, it has to do with the gap between the learner's current abilities and their potential with guidance from a more knowledgeable person, in most of the cases, a teacher. What this states is just that social interaction is very important for guide a student. The other one is the scaffolding. This is more about the support provided by a learner from a more knowledgeable person, in most of the cases a teacher or even a classmates. So this support can include a lot of things, verbal prompts, demonstration, and even cues to facilitate learning. The other one is language as a social tool. So this theory views language as a tool for communication and social interaction, more than just a pure cognitive process. Because language serves to express ideas, emotions, and thoughts. And finally is the private speech. One of the things that Vygotsky saw in the students is that they often engage in a private speech. What it says is that they talk with themselves during problem solving tasks. He argued that this action is an important step in language development. And finally, about this theory, here you have an example of the use of the theory in an educative situation. However, this is not all, because there's also one more theory. And finally, for the last theory that we have for this quick summary is the usage-based theory. So let's see what we have. So what is this theory? This is another influential perspective for psycholinguistics that focuses more on the use of the language in a real-life context and exposure we have to real language. So, what is the main idea of this theory? That language learning and comprehension is based on the accumulation of patterns of use. So, what is the main proponent of this theory? His name is Michael Tomasello, an important developmental psychologist and linguist who established the main concepts for this theory. The first of them is a construction grammar that suggests that language is organized around constructions, and these constructions are formed through the repeated exposure we have to the language. And this practically explains how different words and expressions are used in different contexts. The other one is frequency. It means that the more exposed we are to the language, the more likely we are to acquire the forms of the language. The other one is the cognitive mechanism. Tomasello explained that learners use two important cognitive mechanisms, categorization and analogy, because these two mechanisms play a crucial role in learning, because they will use it to generalize some specific forms of the language. And finally, the last one is social interaction. Although this factor is not the main focus of the theory, this theory emphasizes that social interaction is important because it provides learners with opportunity to exposure to language, which is something very essential. And now you have here an example of the use of this theory into an educational situation. And yes, this will be the end for this quick summary about all the theories that contributed to psycholinguistics. And now let's continue with the interview that George did with a professional in the area of psychopedagogy.
Good morning. Today we have a guest who's going to talk about the theories of psycholinguistics. We have PhD Lisette Mayorga, who is a graduate in psychopedagogy.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, for the first question, we have could you briefly explain what psycholinguistics is and why it is important in the study of language?
Well, psycholinguistics is the study of how human process, produce, and understands language. It's important in language study because it helps us understand the cognitive processes behind language use.
Now, for the second question, what are the main theories in psycholinguistics and what are their fundamental differences?
Some main theories in psycholinguistics include the Chomsky theory, which focuses on universal grammar, and the connectionist theory, which emphasizes distributed neural networks. Their fundamental differences lie in the structures they propose of language processing.
Now, how has research in psycholinguistics developed over time, and what have been the most significant milestones?
Research in psycholinguistics has evolved over time, from early behavioral studies to more recent neuroimaging techniques. Key milestones include the development of the Broca's area and the Wernicke's area theory, and the advent of functional MRI for studying language in the brain.
Okay, for the fourth question, psycholinguistics also addresses topics such as bilingualism. What are some key theories related to language processing in bilingual individuals?
Psycholinguistics addresses bilingualism through theories like the bilingual interactive activation model and the parallel distributed processing model. which explore how bilinguals process languages simultaneously or separately.
Now for the final question. How has psycholinguistics been applied in clinical practice, for example, in the treatment of language disorders?
In clinical practice, psycholinguistics is applied in the treatment of language disorder, such as aphasia. Language therapy is often informed by psycholinguistic research, helping individuals recover language skills through structured interventions.
Now, that's all for the questions I have for you, and I want to thank you for your time and hope this was a very informative interview. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Now, to conclude this video, we could say that psycholinguistics plays a very important role in understanding the intricate processes involved in language use and comprehension. It involves various theories, such as the Chomskyan and connectionist theory that was mentioned in the interview, in which they offer unique insights into the cognitive mechanisms and underlying language. The field has witnessed significant progress over time, from early behavioral studies to advanced neuroimaging techniques, with milestones like the discovery of Broca's and Wernicke's areas and the utilization of functional MRI. In addition, psycholinguistics extends its scope to bilingualism, examining how individuals process multiple languages, and in clinical settings, it aids in the treatment of language disorders by providing a scientific basis for language therapy, offering hope for those striving to recover their linguistic abilities. Thank you so much. That's the end of the video.